for service, which I will probably take it up a little bit later on the business models and, where we can talk on the business model aspects. Because people get confused between a digital model, digital shadow, and a digital twin.
Welcome to Tech Bytes with Ash, where we discuss trends in digital technology that support true business outcomes. I'm Ashu Bhatia, a consultant, an author, and a practitioner of all practical insights on your technology investments.
Hey, Rajiv, good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate you getting on the podcast. But before I begin, I always love for the audience to really get to know the professional and the person behind the name. So, Rajiv, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your journey as yet.
Thanks, Ashu, for having me here. I was always intrigued as a electrical undergraduate engineer, on an organization like Siemens. Yeah, so I will start with my professional side of it. Yeah, and I studied in India, and what intrigued me was, they are first of all the referencing in the textbooks about the vacuum circuit breakers and power generation and all those stuff, and so I was always aspiring. And then what intrigued me more was at that time the narrative around Siemens and its vision was about using electrical technology to solve practical problems. Now that sounded phenomenal. I mean, practical problems in healthcare, in energy, in transportation, in industry. So that was like, wow. I mean, I would like to really work there.
Yeah.
And further enhanced by the fact that they have multidisciplinary innovation and all this kind of stuff. Like, they had a hearing aid. Siemens had hearing aid, and many people can B2C relate to it. And, inside a hearing aid is an algorithm. It's a AI model, perhaps working since about 50, 60 years. And Siemens started using that in locomotives, to predict condition monitoring. I mean, so this was like, for me, a great start, I would say. So 33 years hence, nowadays I call myself a large learning model in Siemens because I don't want to bore the audience on all what I did. But just a glimpse of it is, and I call it a large learning model, and some more context will come. So I started in a solutions background in Siemens, which we had an extensive solutions business. And that actually taught me about the whole concept of jobs to be done. I mean, coming back from the customer, looking at a problem, working with partners. And it grounded me in the domain, whether it's infrastructure in industry. What is the learning and takeout was I understood about multi-sided platforms way back in the late 90s of how they make aero and non-aero business. And also that was what the solution business taught me about how businesses work and all this stuff. And that transition to me being sent to Sri Lanka to set up and run Siemens. And that was another phenomenal experience in a war-torn country. But one example that stood out was how automation touches people, because there was a phenomenal partner there that, was trying to go to an old industry like tea industry and try and see how they get better auction prices. Wow. And normally how auction prices are done is people just pick the tea and then look at, how it is consistency. And this person came up with a vision sensor with a PLC and all. So the question is, how do you look at not the product, but the creative approaches that you can do in touching and solving practical problems that our company always wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Then moving to Europe, which was another great experience for me in the part of the LLM training, that I first got the chance of building up the data center vertical market. So Siemens operates in vertical markets, and the data center vertical was at that time just in the infancy, getting started. They had problems, not getting into the detail, but obviously that experience of setting it up and running familiarized me with cloud, with elasticity, with nonlinear business models, and stuff like that. That was phenomenal. And then I got a great opportunity to, that's the time when Industry 4.0 was taking shape in Germany, was the leader there, and I was in the middle of Germany, and one of the board members wanted to figure out how to build a service around Industry 4.0, and I was tasked to lead a team globally to do that. And I call this memory-induced context, and I will bring it up later, that only the human LLM can do, and I will bring it up in the context. So basically, I used the experience that I had in this elastic cloud, digital, the platform business and all those stuff. And that came in play where I, of course, started working on creating a non-linear, data-driven business for
Wow.
service around reliability, safety, and security. That actually was an incubation phase. It was like a high school project when I was doing it, but went on to
Mhm.
become the IIoT platform that Siemens specialized in, and also the cyber practice. This then led me to go to the US, where I'm living now, and I
Yeah.
got exposed to PLM, the world of PLM. And I
Yeah.
started working with PLM simulation, and I would say that rounded me completely in
Yeah.
the on the infinity you see behind me is basically the cyber physical world.
Very nice.
So
Very
I
nice.
came from the physical world. I was solving business problems, then came in the knowledge of PLM
Yeah.
and simulation and the whole world of how the digital world works and how this can interplay. That was the whole conscious intent. And
Yeah.
that's probably what has led me to where I am now, working with digital ecosystems and topics that I'm passionate about.
Very nice. Very, that's a great journey, Rajiv. I mean, it's phenomenal to say, as you said, of course, being with a firm that is doing such cutting edge throughout, and it's nostalgic for me because that was my first job out of school in Bangalore. So I've been to that airport, and it's good to know that Siemens was involved there. But I think just understanding your journey, the breadth and the depth of it, clearly you're an engineer at heart, but you've morphed into the real world, the physical plants, and then you've seen, of course, as you said, data and artificial intelligence into what to do with business outcomes, right? So that's, I think, if you bring three circles, you're right at the intersection, right there in the middle. So great journey. Would love to kind of delve right in. Since you mentioned, right, the physical aspect of factories touching and feeling the tea itself, and then doing things with vision oriented, computing. Let's talk about the buzzword in the industry, in your industry especially, digital twins, right? So clearly, as the physical world begins to meet a little bit of the digital world, and you're using information technology and converging that with operational technology, a lot of people are doing that and trying to do things, especially around manufacturing, but other industries as well, as you mentioned, healthcare, etc. Tell us a little bit about where is the spectrum on digital twins?
To answer that, I will take a step back. Yeah? A step back in terms of building the context around why, that the whole
Yeah,
context of why digital twins, and then of course the position of where I come from and my organization. It's not, I'm not representing my organization's view, but it's obviously the experience that I've gathered has mainly been being here. So if you look at what the businesses require today, to succeed. And I wouldn't say that it was not what was required yesterday, but it is required more today, given the playground that they are playing in now. The playground meaning the general purpose technologies that are available of ubiquitous computing,
yeah,
unlimited computing power, cloud, AI. I call this a playground.
right,
And I always say people who don't change their games in the new playground, lose out, right? And I used
exactly.
to give this example earlier about field hockey, when people used to play in grass, which, the country I come from, India, used to be the world champions, and the skill that was needed was dribbling. And
Yeah,
then what happened is the Europeans and others tell they don't have all season weather. I mean, they have weathers changing and they can't play in grass. So they created
yeah,
the AstroTurf. And in AstroTurf, the game needed something else. It needed timing and precision. That's about it. I mean, it was not dribbling.
exactly,
And the people who didn't
exactly.
change the game lost out. So, I mean, so one is the
Yes, great
context
analogy.
of playground.
Yeah,
The agility aspect is becoming agility, meaning supply chain disruptions, or
yeah,
I want a multi-purpose plant.
right.
I want to change the raw materials in the fly. So these are contexts we have seen in the COVID. We have seen it's not only then. I mean, I would say 25 years back, Siemens was the leader he's been a leader and has been a leader even now on the PLC and automation. We had the best plant in Germany.
Yep.
And what we found is there were low cost competition with the same features coming in from other parts of the world. And the question was, do I go and build a plant there, or I do something different here and
Yeah,
lead? And I won't go into the details, but that required also a different view of how you will start manufacturing. How do you start excelling in what you do? And all this coming back to the context of you actually require agility in business. Yeah, the
correct.
key aspect.
Yep.
And agility, and then going into the digital twin topic, again, I would like to go into the fundamentals of design.
Yeah,
So, design is basically when you design a product or a process, you're going down into the nitty-gritties of what it takes.
Yep.
For you build a car, you've got to go into the details of how it is, you build it based on user experience, on how to service it, what can go wrong, the failure modes, the aerodynamics, the drag. And so you have to go into as much of details as required to make it a product that you want, right?
Yep.
Now, this apparently happens to be a digital replica of the product. And in the case of a process, it is more representing, because in a process scenario, the product is not that critical, but the more important is the process replication, right? So the whole context of digital twins and the way we have been approaching, and I have been looking at it, is it's been there. We have been creating it, the design, and that is something called design for everything that we have been adopting. The design, and that is how we kept, how I try to explain is not going on slides and talking about a digital model, because people get confused between a digital model, digital shadow, and a digital twin.
Wow.
A digital model is just a digital representation of a physical product. A shadow is a snap. And a twin apparently needs to coexist and thrive along the journey. But the devil is in the detail. What level? The molecule level? Is it a multi-attribute physics? Or is it just a beautiful 3D photorealistic rendition? Now, everything can be called a digital twin, right? So I'm not getting into, we don't try and differentiate in the context of, the definition, but it's about what is to be executed and what problems it solves. Now, coming back to design for everything. So design for testing has been used in automotive industry for ages. Right? In the beginning, probably people didn't trust that, it gives the same results as a real crash testing. But I think today, nobody questions about it. So if you really look at an example, crash test, like design for testing, or is being something in use, and it is now getting prevalent in other industries.
Since you mentioned, right, so design for everything, as you said in the beginning, that design encompasses either a product or a service. Now, when you talk of specifically just manufacturing, there is discrete manufacturing, there's process manufacturing, right? That digital model, digital shadow, or digital twin. But where do you use this, even specifically in manufacturing? Is it all encompassing in both those domains of manufacturing, or is there some specific utility in one versus the other?
Well, I would say that discrete manufacturing certainly took the lead in calling out digital twins. And as I told you, the digital twin, the design for everything concept started with the discrete, but the process have also been very strong in digital representation of whether it is a PFD, process flow diagram, or a PIND, which is all captured here and there. The question is about connecting the dots, right? So if you really look at the design for testing, we have a violent agreement about the fact that it is a digital twin that is used for crash testing. Then you have design for manufacturing, which is about, I've got this whole manufacturing bill of material. How do I manufacture it in the ideal way? How do I simulate a plant that in terms of AGVs or other things are going to work and interoperate? So that's, again, a digital twin replication of how you make efficiencies work there. And then you have the design for service, which I will probably take it up a little bit later on the business models and, where we can talk on the business model aspects. And in the process industry, it's very unique because in the process, as I told you, the product is important, but the process is where the twin gets relevant, because there's nobody needs to make a digital twin of milk or a shampoo, but certainly the golden batch, the recipe, right? So there has been a lot of work that is happening in terms of how do you really do process simulation. And the process simulation has evolved to an extent where you can start measuring the unmeasurable. And in the process industries, as you know, whether it is steel or even in milk and other industries, just to take an example of an industry that, I grew up eating Horlicks and drinking milk and all the milk powders and all the stuff. So, they have a product that is a very critical product called a spray dryer. It is like a 10-story building. It's big. And what it does is basically, either a malt, a slurry is sent up, or a milk is going up, and it actually dries it up, removes the moisture to an extent that is required, and then you get the product. Now, the devil here is in the detail, right? It is normally managed by advanced process control and all, but the challenge is how do you measure? Because if you remove too much of humidity, the product's composition changes. If you remove less, it becomes useless, or it will be less useful, right? So there's a lot of wastage there, and there's a lot of energy here, right?
Right.
And here, the twin concept, I mean, giving this example so that people understand what a digital twin can mean in the process industry. So what we did is we actually had, a process simulation done. We had some templates, we have an offering called GPROM or something like that. So which actually takes, it has a spray dryer model. Yeah. And we picked it up and trained it with historian data for 6 months. And what happened here, you virtually do, correlation. Yeah. So you actually, there are certain things that if you have the feature extraction done, if you know the domain, you would know that if this behaves in this fashion, that is what is going to happen here. So if you don't, and the fact is, the reality in the spray dryer industry is that the sensors, they were very, very expensive sensors, but they were due to the environmental conditions and dust and all, it used to fail every 3 months. So, and the process control relied on the snapshot from that. And obviously, this whole thing wasn't efficient, right? So what we started doing is let's do a non-intrusive, we call it soft sensing, which is basically a digital twin in an executable form. Basically, we made a twin of a process with learning through historic data, and then it works without going in there. And I can give so many examples in electrical engineering where you can, you can find a motor is going to fail by not putting a sensor, but by the voltage and current. So there are, that is what I call soft sensing. And this is also, in a way, a digital model where you use, this is what I call the gold standard. When you have physics-based models, they are gold standards for AI. Because the other methodologies is you take a lot of data, you train it, and you think it's going to work the way you want it to work. But the digital twin creates the gold standard for testing.
That's a great example of both. I mean, as you said, of course, discrete, everyone knows car testing, auto crashes, etc. But this, I'll always remember the Horlicks because, of course, as a child, I've done it in many parts of the world, Horlicks or Milo or whatever. So putting the milk through some of that, simulating it, right environment and controls for the humidity, etc. But let me switch gears and see from your global experience, since you said you kind of worked in Asia and Europe as well as in Americas. Have you seen typical roadblocks or challenges? Is it like you mentioned, right? The analogy you used was playground. You got to change your play to succeed. Is there something around changing your game that involves having rules like data quality or things like that? I mean, any roadblocks that you've seen in your experience that really hamper a lot of organizations to go all into this technology called digital twins?
Yeah, the answer is all of the above, right? I mean, scaling challenges, again, it depends on how we approach it. I mean, if you're trying to go and tell the customer that he needs a digital twin, then it becomes an ROI story over and above what he's doing, and it gets down to what level of complexity you want the twin to have. As I told you, if you, for example, you take a battery pack business that is now very hot, and batteries, can create life-threatening problems if they don't work well. And so batteries are made, it's like cooking. There is a recipe, and each one cooks it the way they, everybody may have the same ingredients and the recipe written down, but the way you cook, so it's like an art today.
Yes.
Battery manufacturing is like an art which depends on tribal knowledge and all that. So we've of course worked heavily on making this, digital twin enabled, AI enabled, making it more traceable and all those kind of aspects. But then the question is about to which level you want to go, whether when you make a twin for the battery pack, it could be a multi-attribute twin with molecule level, chemistry, physics, multi-physics models. So the devil is in the detail here, because a digital twin is the most important definition I always give is it's a functional representation of what is a physical product. It's not a physical representation. I mean, it's not just visual, it's a functional. And the function can go to any depth you want. And that's where domain knowledge is critical, because you got to know where to stop. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it can be
exactly.
a science project that needs supercomputers, right? So,
Exactly.
so I think the scaling problems are around computing, engineering efforts, and also missing ROI, and how deep you go, and the
Right.
acceptability. People have to say, I trust. Like how you have acceptability issues for AI models, you have
Exactly.
acceptability issues for digital twins, right? So the scaling challenges are a multitude of this, and the context is we don't try to sell it as a digital twin. As I told you, if you go to the
Right.
fundamentals, design for everything, you've
Right.
got something already with you. Are you using it? How can you use it better? And you will find that we also link the way we approach the market. We intertwine digital twins with something we call digital thread.
Hmm.
Again, not throwing buzzwords. If you really look at, I mean, you don't need to hire a top four business consultant to figure out what goes wrong when you are doing a transformation for a company. I'm focusing mainly on industrial, but it can,
Yep.
you'll find that there is problems with lack of use of data. The data
Right.
silos are there. They're
Of
not
course.
being used. And
Yeah.
so what we came up with this whole concept of digital thread, which is about digital continuity that allows for use of data seamlessly across a specific business process. So there is a specificity here. For
Right.
example, if you go to an automotive industry, new product introduction is a digital thread. And it
Mm.
nobody will be surprised when you say, is NPI critical for you? Yeah, bingo, yes. Now, okay, what do you need to succeed in NPI? You need to do design for testing, design for manufacturing, design for service. Absolutely right, right? So this is fundamental. So I'm not here trying to scale digital twins, but I'm trying to bring in digital twins to assist in your process.
That's a
And
great point.
then the ROI view becomes different. So this is the scaling is a combination of technical mindsets and processes, right? And the process is also about how you try and sell it, right? I mean,
Exactly.
so it's a complex motion, and the ones who are
Yeah.
able to be really beneficial to customers is really the ones who show value.
Mm.
It is
Mm.
about showing value, and as you can see, you need a single source of truth for a digital thread, and that's where things like PLM comes in. And PLM is not just product data management. PLM is everything from managing simulation to user experience to collaboration to many other things, right? So
Right.
it's the whole domain has evolved.
Absolutely. No, that's a great example because I think to your point, if scaling involves technology, it involves a process. And the great example that you said is if you're using a digital thread, take a specific business process and look at all the data silos that might be there for that thread so you can run that process. That's a great point because I myself, I am, of course, in professional services consulting, and I do data and AI every day. The data silos issue is so big, right? Like you can't get around it. This is a great way to say that thread is needed to stitch the solution together, and so you cut the silos around it, right? So that's great. Now, from your vantage point, Rajiv, I mean, because you manage ecosystems and the strategy behind all of that for so many of your clients, for Siemens, from an ecosystem play, right? As you said, end of the day, you have to see how to add value. So in value, you could be adding some portion of the value, or you could be going end to end trying to get value. But people say, right, in ecosystems are more strong because even if the thread of a spider web is weak, it's the formulation that'll become real strong, and that's the value you provide the consumer. How does do you see the spectrum of value people participate? How do you know that this is the thing that I lack and this is where I need to kind of partner with?
Great question. In my background, you would have seen about the fact that I came in with a partner-centric and partner-friendly,
Right,
upbringing. So I think the upbringing helped me a lot in
right,
being effective in ecosystems. Yeah,
right.
and here I will give you a small parallel to what we are doing here at Siemens. I told you Siemens started with Werner von Siemens saying he wants to electrical technology to solve practical problems, and he did a great
Right.
job at it. We
Yeah.
created the most number of patents in the world, but then we also created 50,000 products. and,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
became a tech product centric organization. Now and being for 3 decades in a company sometimes helps you see how it transitions. And today we speak about being an enterprise technology company. And what it means by being an enterprise technology company is not, the sum, it's not just a sum of 50,000 products, but it's about how we deliver value, whether it is in the form of providing agility to manufacturing or mobility or infrastructure, right? Now, why I say this is this promise of being able to deliver enterprise technology is not a monolith platform. Today, people speak about composable approach. They don't want a monolith. They want composability. And what does composability mean? Flexibility, future-proof, and the ability to, integrate to where you are. And that's where most industries are. Like they have legacy automation, they have legacy PLMs. Now, coming here, so it's not about what gaps. So when we look at ecosystems, the promise we give of being an enterprise technology is about telling, okay, how do you integrate with others? How do you be open, interoperable, and deliver value, and also provide ability for building composite solutions on top, right? So that also helps us in the building of the most comprehensive digital twin, because you can't do it all yourself, right? So all this requires a lot of fundamentals. It requires foundational services, integration services. You need to have API first offerings that can pick things in, you can pick what you want, not what I have. And then having the ability to build things on low code. And also I told about digital thread, but taking it to digital fabrics where you're talking about knowledge graphs and other kind of aspects, right? Because, context, again, bringing back this memory-induced context stuff. I mean, you need context. Data, but you need data in context, and then that becomes more effective for using things like AI or other things, right? So that's great. So the ecosystem strategy is around how do you find, the right revenue streams and approaches, and of course, you also look at make buy partner decisions on product level. But when you start becoming an enterprise technology company trying to solve business problems of customers, you've got to have a different view of the ecosystem.
This has been evolving for so many years, whether it was, CAD systems and things like that. But now you're using technology, and you mentioned the word of the day, AI. They use things like Industrial Symphony, for lack of better words. Some people say, oh, digital twin is like instruments, IoT is giving you the rhythm, and AI is the conductor, right? But from your vantage point, really doing this for so many problem statements that you mentioned, where do you see all of this evolving? Where are we going with this technology?
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly mentioned, it has been an evolution, right? Things have started. I mean, I don't want to get into the history, but if you look at digital twins got formed due to good amount of software available for simulation and multi-attribute simulation and all those things. And I think this whole digital twinning aspect, and we have also gone to the next level of digital twins of making it executable by taking it into bite sizes that can work in any deployment without all the computing that you need, by just doing some feature engineering and all. This is where the measuring the unmeasurable and all comes in. But this is now moving into what I call, what we say is, without the digital twin, there is no metaverse. The metaverse is like a collaboration space where you bring in additional scenes that are relevant to the customer. So here it's also, it's about what is relevant to the business, right? And bring in additional capabilities, whether it is photo perfect rendition, or whether it is, for example, you may do a great digital twin in a normal NX software, or you do all the kind of physics modeling, but you want to create synthetic data for quality testing in automotive. So there you need to have a photo perfect rendition of how really it looks in real life with shadows and all those things. Now there, you may integrate with Omniverse, which is an NVIDIA offering that provides the scene descriptions that provide photo perfect rendition. And this integration creates a superior version of a twin that actually serves a particular problem, right? And we have also seen that happen in cases we have worked with companies that build yachts. And, we do a great simulation of a yacht with its CFD modeling. Everything is done. But then, when you do the CFD modeling, you'll find, the deck in the yacht is getting too hot in summer, and this is going to be running in Caribbean. Now, then you start trying to work out on how do you create a canopy on top of it, and you then redo the modeling, and then you look at it in the context of its surroundings, these ocean and other kind of things, which again brings in some elements of metaverse and also AI, because here the AI aspects can either make the twin faster, it can actually help train the twin, and also on the other side, an AI model, a digital twin can help deploying an AI model faster, because as I told you, a digital twin provides the physics modeling that can actually validate an AI model, making it more explainable, for example, right?
Wow.
So you can see this is the evolution I'm seeing going forward. The twins, there are a single digital twin is made of multiple composite twins, and you have a metaverse scenario where you are having many of them collaborating with each other. And making the whole scene more collaborative, right? And immersive, and giving more value and benefit to the customer. So, and AI plays a key role here. AI is a catalyst in many of these aspects, and it can be leveraged in multiple fashions.
You said that it can help deploy AI even faster because you've already built all the realms of the physical world onto this digital platform. Then AI can train itself better, which is a phenomenal thing to say.
Remember, I told you about memory-induced context in my context, saying,
yes, your LLM.
Of human, right? The human, we have one part of the brain has sensory perceptions. We are able to see, and this is what today most people do as AI, vision sensors, Now, what humans do is when you sleep, this whole things that you have with sensory perceptions and what knowledge comes and gets embedded in context in the back of the brain. And now what happens is whenever you're acting in the future, there is an extraction from memory of what we call the context so it's called memory-induced context. Now this capability is not there in the world of AI research. It's going on, but it is going to take some time. But digital twins can play a key role here. If it's really comprehensive, it could be an assist towards providing more context, more, as I told you, a digital twin should be able to analyze the past, reflect the present, and predict the future. Right?
And so also predict the future.
So you could see how a twin can actually help in AI. By making it more risk, making the customer risk-free, a little bit less risk, and also an adoption. It's a much more reliable. It's a physics, as I'm saying. The functional model is a more trusted model. It is a gold standard. Because any other AI model is, is it going to hallucinate? Is it, what are the boundaries it's working in? But here it's working with physics, which is a reliable thing.
Right. The conscious and the subconscious processes all of that. And with the physical world, you're bringing all this together. It's an exciting world, whether you call it extended reality, augmented reality, or virtual reality. There's so much going on. But I think your vantage point is that you brought physics, chemistry, and digital together. I really want to thank you for your time. Can I share some of your, digital, not digital twin, but your digital handles out there?
LinkedIn is the easiest way to have me. That's where I'm active.
Absolutely. I'll definitely share your LinkedIn handle with the audience.
Look up at Siemens Digital Twins, which is it is my company's view, and a lot of what I shared, I've learned from working. Of course.
Again, thank you so much, Rajiv, for your time today, and look forward to bringing you back and you doing a little more deep dive in some of these interesting topics. Thank you again.
Thanks, Ashu, for having me. Take care.